Lately, an accusatory finger has been pointed at NAC when it comes to the so-called turbocancer that seems to be strangely common today. I don't think this is a real issue, and I'll try to explain why to the best of my ability. These cancers are also associated with massive IgG4 antibody increases. This may seem quite exotic and unusual, but in fact it isn't really. It's very normal for autoimmunity problems in the body to present this symptom. Technically, it could contribute to cancer in certain cases, but mainly it is a sign of immune system exhaustion. More importantly, is there anything we can do about it?
You could actually save people from death.
Not by listening to your doctor. I haven't seen a water cancer scare yet, but when it finally comes, I'm not going to be surprised in the least. Keep in mind that NAC is really just providing L-cysteine, which the body needs to make glutathione and taurine, and it was only created because you can't patent L-cysteine and turn it into a medication, which is what they did with NAC. Since people have asked a lot about TUDCA lately, it is also needed to make TUDCA in the body, which can also be used as a supplement and is very good for the liver and even for the brain. TUDCA also helps get rid of gallstones. Doctors use it in the hospital when needed, but they'd rather just operate on you than tell you that you can buy this stuff over the counter and not have to come in and get an expensive and life-wrecking surgery. When you supplement L-cysteine, it also drives down homocysteine, just like supplementing taurine does. That's because homocysteine is created when the body splits up methionine in order to make these compounds in the body. Your body has an amazing design, so if your body gets them in your diet, it simply doesn't do this. It doesn't robotically keep making it. It also doesn't just make all the L-cysteine in your body into glutathione, which would be totally crazy. And that's what I've seen many doctors claim. Your body has enzymes controlling the production of every protein in the body, and it never makes too much. So the claim that taking NAC can lead to overreduction in the body by making too much glutathione is absolutely ridiculous and impossible, and it's simply false. On the other hand, with oxidative reducing agents like vitamin C or ascorbic acid, this is a real possibility. That is likely one reason that lifespan experiments giving vitamin C to animals actually reduces lifespan. Another is likely that vitamin C ultimately degrades into oxalate over time, which is not just an issue for your kidneys, but also a metabolic poison that wreaks havoc in the body. So it's definitely not an issue with overreduction, which is what's been suggested by many. A while back I had a video where I talked about a BCAA causing hunger in mice, because when it's taken in large doses it outcompetes absorption of tryptophan in the body. Tryptophan plays a critical role in satiety in the brain, and too little of it can cause a great deal of problems. And this could also be a big problem in humans since we share all the same pathways as mice in this case. And that calls into question the use of branched chain amino acids as a supplement, in addition to the fact that they basically just don't work in the first place. And that's part of why I don't take most amino acids in the same time as meals. I take them about an hour afterwards when most of the amino acids from the meal have been absorbed, so this is not going to be an issue. The only exception is leucine, which I do take during the meal so it can stimulate maximum protein synthesis. Since amino acids are expected by the body in a certain ratio, the same ratio found in meat and dairy and eggs, altering this in our diets can cause issues, such as when we eat plant proteins that lack in methionine, glycine, and leucine. Unfortunately, virtually everyone today is lacking in glycine compared to the natural human diet, and even the diet people ate just 100 years ago. Glycine is essential to endless functions in the body, including fighting cancer and protecting your mitochondria from damage, so you really don't want to be deficient. Glycine is required to make glutathione along with L-cysteine, and if you take NAC or L-cysteine alone, you're going to be robbing that glycine from the rest of the body. Since the amount of NAC given in these studies was excessively large, this is going to cause some glycine deficiency. Glycine is crucial to many systems in the body, and supplementing has been shown in animal experiments to decrease the chances of cancer and to improve cancer outcomes. In short, no, you can't overdose on NAC. However, it should not be taken directly with meals, and you should only supplement glycine if you supplement NAC or L-cysteine. Most people today are deficient in glycine even if they eat nothing but meat because they don't have daily broth. But plant eaters are especially deficient, and taking other aminos can skew this deficiency even more. I take 1 gram of L-cysteine per day and 6 grams of glycine, but some researchers suggest 20 grams or even more per day could be beneficial. IgG4 has been on the rise in many people, and while it is presented as a new catastrophe of some kind, it is actually very common in postviral syndrome from any kind of virus. This includes chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia, which we now know fall under this umbrella. So what is IgG4 exactly? IgG stands for immunoglobulin G, which is simply a subtype of antibody, and IgG4 is a specific antibody class. It's a certain protein that's in many antibodies, basically, though they're all slightly different. This has been elevated in many people with the latest illness running around.
The doctors told me it was pneumonia, but I knew what it was. A victim of the modern age. Poor girl.
However, it can also be the result of any kind of autoimmunity issue, including those caused by safe and defective treatments of all kinds. IgG4 is often elevated in MS, for example. It's also associated with fibrosis in the body, or scarring, and excessive levels can cause at least some problems in and of themselves. It's been promoted lately that IgG4 is causing the so-called turbocancers that some people are experiencing today, but this is highly unlikely. Technically, sometimes these antibodies can have an immunomodulatory effect on the immune system, and it's possible this could shield the cancer from the effects of the immune system for certain specific types of cancer. Kind of like the new 5G cancer scare I talked about a while back, promoted by Dr. Gundry, where he's trying to say that red meat causes cancer. What no one mentions is that virtually all antibodies can do this. There's nothing special about this one. Every time your immune system provokes a response, it's technically possible that it could shield cancer somewhat from the immune system. However, this is a very narrow and rare effect, and just as with the new 5G scare, this is also something the cancer can mutate to do by itself, and this is what happens when you have these really bad cases of cancer that the body just can't do anything about. It's learned how to hide from the body. It's seldom talked about, but anytime your body makes an antibody, even to the most minor sniffle, it can cause major problems. It could also interfere with the immune system. It could lead to dangerous autoimmune reactions, or it could even be formed in such a manner that it causes kidney damage and leads to death. If any message should be taken from this, it's that unneeded stimuli to the immune system could cause major drawbacks to your health. Though this particular mechanism should probably not be worrying, at least when it comes to cancer, the other aspects of it are much more questionable. So no, NAC and IgG4 are not likely to be increasing cancer in people, and they certainly are not creating some sort of special super cancer. In fact, since NAC helps get rid of spikes, it is possible that it even helps get rid of IgG4 antibodies, which may be forming in response to the spikes, whether natural or artificial in origin, or they may be forming due to an autoimmune reaction, or it could be a bit of each, or one or the other in different people. Keep in mind that your immune system itself has to be in good shape, or else you are absolutely wide open to cancer and to new autoimmune conditions. It's unusual, to say the least, to have people suddenly come down with asthma or type 1 diabetes as an adult, But that's exactly what's happening to many people today, and most of them seem to have no clue that this is totally abnormal. If the immune system were somehow compromised though, then this could easily happen. And worse, so could cancers that simply aren't recognized by the immune system and take over the body very, very rapidly. Your body is constantly threatened by cancer, but we generally win these little battles day by day. Our T cells are programmed to recognize it and provoke the proper immune response. As we age though, we lose the ability to make these cells because they require a functional thymus and lots of stem cells. This leads to immunosenescence, where our immune system simply does not work properly anymore. We can also become immunosenescent from medications, radiation, or simply from prolonged high blood glucose. I would say that nanoparticles are also going to do this because they can damage your white blood cells if they get in the bloodstream. Consuming damaging substances like veg oil or fructose also lead us further down this path. T cells also don't live forever, and they can only be programmed to respond to a single threat over their entire lifetime. As they die off, or as they are simply all imprinted on a threat and there's no undeployed ones left, eventually we come across a pathogen or a cancer, and we have no ability to stop it. When that happens, you're not going to like it.
What do we do? We die.
So what's the solution? Obviously, I would avoid anything that might cause damage to your immune system as much as possible. Though sometimes we can't avoid this, especially when we're afflicted with cancer already. This includes anything that increases reactive oxygen species, which leads to metabolic dysfunction and mitochondrial damage. We should also avoid anything that impedes the ability of the body to clean up these issues. This includes many environmental toxins and also many common plant toxins. Supplements like methylene blue, taurine, and glycine can help to prevent reactive oxygen species generation and mitochondrial damage. So can a low-carb diet and avoiding linoleic acid in the diet, which forms with reactive oxygen species in the body to create the mitochondrial damaging genotoxin malondialdehyde. Carb burning is damaging to the body and creates a minimum of 66% more ROS per ATP produced when you compare it to fat burning, which is much safer and cleaner. Taurine can also help a great deal with this situation. IgG4 is generally elevated when the immune system is experiencing immune system exhaustion. It knows what the problem is, but just can't perform its duty properly anymore. Taurine has been proven to help reverse this problem during cancer by giving the needed fuel for phagocytosis to the immune cells, which desperately need it. In a sense, taurine is the fuel of the immune system, especially when it comes to the creation or destruction of proteins in the body, both of which are needed to fight cancer, and which you can't do at all without taurine. Thankfully, we can undo much of the damage we accrue to white blood cells through fasting. Fasting for 72 plus hours releases stem cells, which are needed to create new T cells. 72-hour fast will also regenerate up to 1/3 of your other white blood cells. These cells become damaged from certain treatments and toxins in such a manner that their CD45 plus proteins are compromised, which destroys their ability to distinguish friend from foe. This makes them ineffective at best and harmful to your body at worst. Fasting also reduces your B cells by over half from a single 72-hour fast. This will also cut down excessive IgG4 production by over half as well, because it's the B cells that produce it, and once you stop stimulating their production of new B cells and you get rid of the old ones, you simply won't keep making them anymore at the same levels. While I don't believe this is a big threat in and of itself, you can eliminate this potential risk if you are willing to put in the work to do so. That's also the same solution to address the root cause of immune system exhaustion and immunosenescence, so you may as well just do it if you have these problems. Fasting may seem hard, but don't worry, you won't fade away.
I haven't really eaten anything since I've been here.
You're not gonna fade away. You're gonna be fine.
I still have to eat something.
No, eating the food that belonged to the next 4 years ahead of time.
Growth hormone release is also very helpful for your immune system as it regenerates the thymus itself, which atrophies with age. And this happens to everyone over time, so you might want to take the effort to fix this issue if you can. In the TrimX trial, artificial growth hormone was used with amazing effect on rejuvenating the elderly. Fasting 36 to 96 hours can dramatically increase growth hormone, and what's more is it won't have the side effects that these artificial hormones can have.
What got us started is this observation here that we all have this master gland of the immune system, the thymus gland, but unfortunately for us, by the time we're 30 or 40 years of age, almost all of the functional mass of the thymus is gone. And that's unfortunate because we need that thymic functional mass to make T cells that defend us against infectious disease and cancer. And I roughly estimate that after the age of 50, at least a third of us die as a consequence of that involution of the thymus. Next scroll, thank you. So there was evidence that we could actually regrow the thymus, and so we decided to do a clinical trial back in 2015 and 2017. And we found that yes, indeed, we could, based on MRI imaging of functional thymic mass, we could regrow functional thymic mass in people up to the age of 65. And in fact, we could see reappearance of new thymus manufactured cells in the bloodstream and a disappearance of certain senescent T cells, which are making way for the new ones that are coming out. We also saw a sign of reduced inflammation, which we were hoping to see, reduced prostate cancer risk indices, and even changes in hair color in a few of our people. Scroll, please. And with respect to hair color changes, things like that, that sort of suggested a general anti-aging effect. So Steve Horvath ran 4 different epigenetic aging clocks on our volunteers and showed that in every case, aging seemed to be going in reverse, at least based on the output of those clocks. Later on, Steve went back and had another look at the data based on a completely different metric, which is the plasma measurement that we were just hearing about, the plasma pheno-age clock of Morgan Levine, and found the same thing. Next scroll, please. So for that reason, we decided to go on to see if we could replicate those results. So we're calling the new trial the TrimX, the extension of the original Trim trial. We're dividing it up into different tranches. The first one is A, which we've completed as of this month. We don't have all the data in yet, but it's beginning to show some signs of replicating what we saw before. The aged population is about 8 years older, but epigenetically they're the same age as the original Trim population, so they're a different kind of kettle of fish. We saw a little bit of hair darkening, but not as much as what we saw in the Trim trial. But we have seen improvements in prostate cancer risk, a decrease in CRP, and the immune results and the epigenetic aging results will probably be in by the end of this month, but unfortunately don't have them yet. But we do have data in on the plasma pheno-age clock. And in the original Trim trial, about 51% of the people responded positively in that regard, although all of them responded positively in terms of the epigenetic aging aspect. We see the same proportion of responding positively in TrimX-A, so that's encouraging. Next slide, please. So I just had to throw this in. So Steve Horvath volunteered to be a partial treatment control in our group, and he was taking DHA metformin, but not growth hormone. I was taking DHA metformin and growth hormone. His statistical results were not there. Mine were. Don't know if that means anything, but it's interesting. It kind of suggests that we can reproduce some of the results from the Trim trial. Next slide. So some new things that we're seeing in TrimX-A, increase in lymphocytes, both absolute and percentage. That correlates with reversal of plasma pheno-age, but we did not see that in controls, only in the treated group. Next slide, please. We also saw some new things. So we've confirmed that in people that enter the trial with a high carbon dioxide level in their blood, it goes down. That's suggestive of improved lung function. We have made a limited number of measurements on people who have gone through exercise training at our campus, and we've seen a 25% improvement in VO2 max on average with a high statistical significance, again, suggesting improved lung function. Next. And going along with that, we're finding improvements in muscle strength, both in men and women, as you can see down here, and in exercise tolerance as indicated by the lactate threshold. Improving. This gentleman up in the right corner entered the trial at the age of almost 81, and a little while later he started enrolling in 5K races and started sending us his times. And I think if we started doing linear regression through those times, we'd see that it keeps going down, and he says, well, I beat my record, I didn't even try. So we may have some more objective data that come out of some of these subjective reports. Next slide, please. Another thing that we saw, in addition to the improved exercise capacity, muscle strength, et cetera, is a 14% decrease in the total body fat percentage.
While there's a lot of flailing in the dark to blame this so-called turbocancer on everything under the sun, these guesses just don't make much sense most of the time, and immunosenescence from a mysterious source seems to be much more likely. I also wanted to thank whoever suggested using magnesium hydroxide instead of sodium bicarbonate in my homemade toothpaste formula so I can avoid having all that sodium. Sometimes with the way comments work, I approve a comment, but it whizzes off into a subthread on an old video where I can't easily find it, so I wasn't able to say that in the thread itself. From now on, that's what I'll be using, as soon as it comes in anyway. I tried using potassium bicarb, but it's very granular, so it gets caught in the teeth and it can burn the teeth very painfully, so I threw that batch out right away. I also want to say that the bilberry at Bulk Supplements does have some maltodextrin in it now. The stuff I have doesn't, but the main site packaging has changed to show it as an ingredient now, and someone else had commented and said that he contacted the company and found this out for sure. That's not ideal, but since you can only take 500 milligrams or so, the amount of that's going to be maltodextrin is basically negligible. Ideally, I'd like to be just pure bilberry like before, and I've contacted Bulk Sups to get more details, but so far there's still no response, so I don't know exactly how much is in there. I also want to thank everyone for watching these videos, especially all the people who show up and comment and hit like on every single video, and there's a lot of you who do. I really appreciate that, and it's you guys who keep the channel going. Otherwise, if the platform sees little interest, it doesn't even bother putting it into the feed of people already subscribed, let alone pushing it out to new people. I don't think it gets out to lots of new people, but at least it gets out to some here and there. It seems like there's a new cancer scare every week. Sometimes there's a scary association between two things that has a less alarming explanation, and sometimes it's just plainly made up nonsense. NAC was approved for use as a medication by the FDA, and it had to undergo many safety trials for that purpose. The idea it causes cancer in any situation is laughable, but I would also say it's a good idea to take glycine with NAC or its active ingredient, L-cysteine. People today are deficient in glycine as a rule, and this could be made even worse when taking large amounts of NAC or L-cysteine. Since glycine is necessary for metabolic health among other things, it's a very good idea to make sure your body has plenty of it even if you don't take NAC. Likewise, IgG4 could technically interfere with the immune system and it hunts down cancer, but while that sounds scary, in reality that is true of many antibodies in your body. This calls into question the wisdom of the practice of stimulating the immune system as much as possible for every little sniffle out there with special treatments. But aside from that, I wouldn't really say that the IgG4 has much to do with anything. On the other hand, white blood cell damage from medications is a common but little talked about side effect, and nanoparticles that make it into the bloodstream will greatly damage your white blood cells. This not only impedes the body in fighting off infections, but also autoimmune disease and cancer, both of which seem to be on the rise in demographics that usually are not affected by them much. Fasting can help a great deal to prevent and even reverse immunosenescence and other immune-related issues, whatever the source may be. Fasting can also reduce these IgG4 antibody levels over time, and it can do the same for any antibodies that you have in your body that don't belong there, including those that create allergies. And this is going to reduce or eliminate any risk that they pose over time. Fasting, a low-carb diet, and the supplements in the description like taurine and glycine could help prevent or overcome these issues, but most of all, Don't be so distracted by the little things right under your nose that you miss something massive sneaking up on you from behind.
Oh my god, I gotta sleep. I'm so tired.
What happened?
You had a bug on you, but it's gone now.